Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Grumpy Acres. I'm Grumpy G. If you're new here, thank you for joining us. Think about hitting that subscribe button if you find this type of content entertaining or informative, and share it with somebody that might need it. Tonight, we are into the next presentation of our City 101 Survival, or City Survival 101 series. And this week, we are going to talk about financial preparedness before, during, and after a crisis. Before, during, and after an urban or suburban crisis. There, I got it right that time. I'd like to thank you guys for coming here. Before we get into everything else, we got a quote by Ayn Rand. Money is only a tool. It will take you wherever you wish, but it will not replace you as the driver. In preparedness, that's 100% true. Before we go on, let me ask you guys a question. Fess up in the chat. That's you and Gregory, you and Leonard. You fess up here if you followed directions and did your homework. Did you write down a 3-layer comms plan for your family with the primary, backup, and last resort? Go ahead and contemplate answering that question honestly. And while we're doing that, I'm going to pull up the poll that was on the community list, and so it was, the question was, if ATMs and card readers stopped working, do you have alternatives? So 50% of the people that responded said yes, they have cash, silver, and barter items. 36% said just some emergency money. Nobody said they rely mostly on digital payments, which is a good thing. And 14% said, I'd be in trouble. You 14%. This is where tonight's presentation comes in. This is specifically for you. And we got some more people popping in the chat. Sam Russell, Simplify Brother, and Utah Mike showing up in the house. Thanks for joining us. Now, getting on with the presentation. First question we need to ask is why financial security matters. So when we're talking about survival in an urban or suburban environment, the first image that comes to mind for most people are often food, water, shelter, and security. You know, those four primary aspects of survival. Beneath all these is another critical aspect that underpins them all: financial security. Money and what it represents, most notably security and stability, has always been the lifeblood of cities. From paying the rent to stocking the pantry to buying medical supplies or arranging transportation, financial stability determines how well you can prepare, endure, and recover from a crisis. So here's a question. Here's a question for you guys. How prepared do you feel financially if a sudden crisis hit your city tomorrow? And I know some of you live in a rural town, but the question still applies. How financially prepared do you feel right now? And just don't go into a lot of detail. Go good or bad, and you can leave it at that, or just don't answer it. I realize it's kind of a sticky subject for people. So let's take a look at financial preparedness in the FSP framework. Financial security is not just about having money in the bank. It's about building resilience across the different FSP aspects. This resilience insulates you from shock, allows you to adapt quickly, and to maintain stability in the face of crisis. Just as food, water, shelter, and security are necessary for survival, financial preparedness ensures you can acquire resources to protect your assets and safeguard your family's future. Here are some examples of how the FSP financial aspect affects the others. Food. When you reduce, well, let's see, do we have a, oh, no, there's no slide for this one. So food. When you reduce your dependency on external systems, your money goes further. Investing in a pantry, growing food, or learning preservation techniques lessens the need to spend scarce cash during a crisis. Water. Access to safe water becomes a financial and security priority in an urban collapse. Having water filters, storage containers, and collection methods means you won't need to trade cash or valuables for safe drinking water. Shelter. The largest financial burden most people in an urban and suburban setting face is housing. In a crisis, losing shelter is devastating. Having the financial ability to cover rent or mortgage during disruptions, ensuring property against natural disasters, and investing in energy efficiency is critical. Security. Economic instability often breeds crime and exploitation. Without preparation, people may find themselves forced to spend money on security or pay inflated prices for protection. By budgeting for deterrence, locks, lighting, and cameras, and maintaining legal means of defense, you reduce financial vulnerability while increasing personal safety. Medical. Medical emergencies are one of the fastest ways to drain finances. Well, I can attest to that. Maintaining insurance, budgeting for copays, and stocking essential medications and first aid supplies before costs skyrocket or access disappears. Preventative care today can save you massive expenses tomorrow. Transportation. Rising fuel prices, shortages, or disrupted public transit can force costly decisions. Budgeting for vehicle maintenance, fuel storage, and having low-cost alternatives such as bicycles allows you to remain flexible and mobile. Communication often requires subscription costs, phones, internet, new outlets, etc. In a collapse scenario, reliable communications can reduce panic spending and poor decisions. Having prepaid devices, radios, or backup chargers ensures you don't rely on last-minute, overpriced solutions. Mental and spiritual resilience. That's next week's topic, by the way. This relies on reducing stress. One of the biggest contributors to stress in an urban crisis is financial uncertainty. Well, I can attest to that. That is one of the biggest things that stresses me out. A financial plan that aligns with your values and focuses on what brings stability and purpose of living, or purpose can. Let me start that sentence over again. A financial plan that aligns with your values and focuses on what brings stability and purpose can be life-saving. And finally, community. It's paramount because no one can survive a long-term collapse completely alone. Having local barter networks, pooled resources, and community credit systems means you won't just survive, you'll thrive. All right, let's see before we go on to the question, let's see what some people said. Gregory said 60-40 on being feeling good about it. 100% prepared, Utah Mike says. Leonard says, I'm good as long as the banks are still open. Oh, we got to fix that, Len. No quarter. I could have $1 billion and still not feel prepared. Yeah, that's about the truth, isn't it? No matter how much I've got of anything, I never feel truly prepared. Okay, here's the question. Have you ever experienced a local disruption, storm, blackout, job loss that affected your finance? And if you feel like it, how did you cope? You know, in the Midwest, snowstorms are a huge issue. You know, the panic buying before the storm will empty shelves. The credit card systems will go down. Just all kinds of things that cause financial hardship. So having a financial plan that takes that into account and having extra cash on hand so you don't have to go to the bank is really important. And we've done that. We, you know, every winter we always have a big storm where we're socked in for a week and we've made it work. Yeah. Yes, Len says yes, multiple times, and it sucked. Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. Here's the thing about financial any preparedness, not just financial preparedness. Preparedness in general makes a major problem into a minor problem, minor problems into things that are inconvenient, and inconvenient things don't matter anymore. No Quarter says I just got laid off 2 months ago. Just lived it day by day. Yep, sometimes that's the only way to do it. The next section, the types of financial collapse. So there are two types of financial collapse here. And when you think about it, they're pretty obvious. Urban and suburban people face a two-pronged threat to financial collapse. When a natural or man-made disaster happens, the infrastructure of their communities can be damaged or destroyed. This can lead to financial stress and insecurity. The other financial threat, it comes in the form of the collapse of a nation's financial system due to due to things like government mismanagement and market forces. Both forms of collapse can cause stress and anxiety. Let's compare them first for a moment. So the physical collapse of a city. If a city's physical collapse is immediate and tangible, transportation fails, utilities go offline, buildings may be damaged, and access to food, water, and medical care become unpredictable. Residents feel the disruption in everyday routines, from commuting to shopping to personal safety. In densely populated areas, scarcity and crowding intensify the challenges, often created heightened competition for essential resources. So the other one is the collapse of a nation's financial system. And by contrast, a national financial collapse can begin silently, with the effects rippling outward over weeks and months. As currency loses value, banks can fail, credit systems freeze, and inflation spirals out of control. Even if the city infrastructure remains intact, residents may find themselves unable to pay for goods, services, or housing. The collapse is systemic. It's systemic versus just instantaneous and invisible at first, affecting trust, social contracts, and long-term planning. Okay, let's go over the key differences and connections. So time frame. Urban physical collapse is often sudden. Financial collapse can be gradual and devastating. Visibility. Physical failures are visible and immediate, while financial failures are abstract and psychological, affecting decision-making and stress levels. Dependency. A city can partially function if national finance is stable, but financial collapse amplifies urban hardships by reducing purchasing power and access to goods. Conversely, urban collapse can trigger financial instability locally or nationally through disruptions of commerce, labor, and trade. And the last one here, survival implications. Physical collapse emphasizes logistics and mobility, while financial collapse emphasizes adaptability, resource allocation, and trust networks. Both require preparation, but strategies differ, yet overlap, when city residents must navigate shortages, barter, and crisis decision-making. All right, let's see. We got some more stuff. Gregory says, had some of those things in my life, learn from it and go on. Absolutely. Utah Mike, I got injured in my small want to be home on his small home to be. Yeah. Let me see if I can't say that again. I got injured on my small wannabe homestead. 3 months of work. I relocated to the suburbs. All right. Let's talk about how crises in general affect financial security. So here's what we're looking at. So urban and suburban crises, whether due to natural disasters or civil unrest, economic collapse, or infrastructure failure, can upend personal and institutional finance systems. Here's how. So you get banking disruptions. ATMs, digital banking, and credit cards may stop working. And if you're in a big city, whether it's blue or red, EBT system. That I guess that'd be part of the digital banking system. Currency devaluations. Hyperinflation or loss of trust in fiat money, such as seen in Venezuela and Zimbabwe. Job and income loss. Businesses shut down, supply chains break, and services vanish. Rising costs. Scarcity leads to inflated prices on essential goods. Digital systems dependency. Without power or internet, your money is inaccessible. So let's look. I pulled up 4 examples from history where these things happen. So here's some examples of both types of collapses. So urban collapse, the Sarajevo siege during the Yugoslavian Civil War. During the Bosnian War, Sarajevo's residents endured years of bombardment, shortages, and cut off from modern infrastructure. Paper money lost practical value while food, fuel, and medicine became the true currency. Skills like repairing stoves or sourcing clean water can literally mean survival. Here's another one. Detroit's decline in the late 20th centuries all the way up to the 2010s. While not a war zone, Detroit's urban collapse due to industrial flight and financial mismanagement left residents facing unemployment, failing services, and abandoned neighborhoods. Informal economies thrive. Barter, scrap metal trade, and community-based survival networks filled the void where the formal system failed. All right, the next one, national financial collapse. First one I came up with was Weimar Germany, 1920s. Hyperinflation reduced the German mark to scrap paper. People carried wages home in wheelbarrows, only to find prices doubled by evening. Those who had invested in hard assets, farmland, gold, or even foreign currency were able to survive, while wage earners were devastated. Argentina, 2001 to 2002. When the Argentine peso collapsed, banks froze accounts, wiping out middle-class savings overnight. Urban residents responded by creating barter clubs, truques, where services like plumbing or carpentry were exchanged for food and goods. Communities proved that when money fails, trust and trade can replace it. Now, here's the key takeaways from this, guys. Whether it's a city collapse into dysfunction or the national financial system imploding, the lesson is the same. Resilience lies in real value: food, skills, goods, and networks of trust. History shows us while governments may print money, the banks may fail, people who can adapt, barter, and produce something tangible will endure. Lynn says Sarajevo got better after a couple of years. Detroit still sucks. He can talk like that because he's from Detroit. Gregory says, read in the Soviet Union, people would barter for fish hooks. Yeah, and a very interesting read is oh gosh, what's his name? The guy that lived through the siege of Sarajevo, but he came up with a list of 100 things that disappear in a war zone first, and it's a very interesting read. I highly suggest you find it. Okay, so here's a question. Speaking of hyperinflation, imagine a sudden hyperinflation scenario in our country. Would you rely on cash, barter, or alternative assets? Go ahead and pick one of the three. I'm gonna short circuit your thinking here while you're typing. I would say that you would rely on all three. You having all your eggs in one basket is really dangerous. All right. Now that we've gone through all the physical aspects of financial stress and collapse, let's talk about the psychology of it all. In times of stress, we humans, more often than not, do not make rational financial choices. Neuroscience shows us that cortisol spikes during emergencies, pushing the brain toward fear-driven decisions. The amygdala, our fight or flight center, urges us to hoard, panic buy, or cling to old habits, while the prefrontal cortex, responsible for reasoned planning, gets sidelined. This explains why during the early days of COVID-19 pandemic, store shelves emptied of toilet paper, bottled water, and canned goods. Fear outweighed logic. Behavioral economists describe this as the scarcity mindset. When people believe resources are scarce, we focus obsessively on immediate shortages rather than long-term planning. This tunnel vision often leads to bad decisions, maxing out credit cards, neglecting the essentials, or overpaying in desperation. Resilient financial preparedness isn't about having piles of cash. It's about training your financial mind to stay steady under pressure. Now, another question for you guys. How do you manage financial anxiety every day in everyday life? Any tips for keeping calm under pressure? And I would say hold that one off until after we're done here and put that down in the comments down below. All right. So an offshoot of the psychological stress is the cultural and spiritual perspectives on financial resilience. Money isn't only numbers. It's also cultural and spiritual. Across traditions and societies, financial resilience has always been tied to community values. For example, Christianity emphasizes stewardship and avoiding debt. Judaism fosters mutual aid societies where families shared interest-free loans in times of need. Islam practices zakat, which is obligatory charity, building community resilience. Stoicism has taught focusing only on what is within your control, including resource management and hard time. And then immigrant communities. In America, they usually pool their money together through rotating credit associations, ensuring no family stood alone in financial struggle. When crisis strikes communities that lean on shared values, the network recovers faster than those that are isolated. So let's talk about the body, mind, money connection. This is something I found when I was studying this, and I'd never put this together before, but I thought it was very interesting. So financial stress doesn't just hurt your wallet, it weakens your entire survival capacity. Studies link chronic financial anxiety to hypertension, insomnia, and impaired immune function. In a crisis, poor health compounds poor decision making, creating a downward spiral. Conversely, financial discipline builds psychological calm, which supports better sleep, sharper decision-making, and stronger physical resilience. In full spectrum preparedness, this is the money, health, resilience triangle. Financial calm reduces stress hormones. Good physical health lowers expenses and boosts energy for survival. And mental resilience prevents panic-driven financial mistakes. It's something to think about. There's a lot of people don't think about how the stress, the financial instability, how it wears on your body. So we need to keep that in mind. All right. So the next thing we want to talk about is alternative stores of wealth. Money is nothing more than a shared agreement, a collective belief in a piece of paper, a digital number on a screen, or a shiny metal coin that has value. This value exists only as long as people trust that others will accept it in exchange for goods. Government mismanagement or societal breakdown, traditional money can quickly become worthless. Let me say that again. When that trust erodes through hyperinflation, government mismanagement, or societal breakdown, traditional money can become worthless. In such moments, people turn to alternative stores of wealth, assets that retain values not because of official decree, but because communities can continue to recognize their usefulness, scarcity, or intrinsic worth. For the urban prepper, understanding and diversifying into these alternative forms, such as precious metals, tangible goods, or even emerging digital currencies, can provide a financial lifeline when conventional systems falter. Let's go back to that. Go back to that last slide. So let's talk about precious metal and hard assets. This is probably the one people are most commonly associated with. So gold and silver have been universal hedges against monetary collapse for millennia. While they may not buy bread at the local corner store during the early days of the crisis, they retain enduring value when fiat currencies collapse. Historically, small denominations like silver coins have been especially useful for day-to-day trade. while gold preserves long-term wealth. Similarly, farmland, livestock, and tools retain practical intrinsic value, offering not only security but also a means of production in an economic collapse. So tangible goods and barter, that's the next one we want to talk about. During an economic breakdown, goods themselves often become more valuable than money. Ammunition, fuel, food staples such as rice, beans, and flour, or even hygiene items like soap and toothpaste have served as de facto currencies in urban collapses. In Argentina's 2001 collapse, barter clubs placed items like canned food or cooking oil on the same footing as official currency. These are assets you can stockpile before a collapse, ensuring both survival and trade opportunities. Next thing I want to talk about is digital alternatives. This is new. This is relatively new in the last 10 or 15 years. While digital assets may seem fragile in a collapse scenario, some crises have shown that they can provide a lifeline. In Venezuela, where the nationalization of the bolivar became nearly worthless, many urban citizens turned to cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin to preserve savings and facilitate transactions. The caveat, however, is that digital wealth depends on electricity and network access, making it unreliable in total infrastructure breakdowns. Still, in partial collapses, the high inflation environments, it can provide an alternative to failing national currencies. Skills is wealth. Perhaps the most underrated store of wealth is not material at all. It is the skills you carry with you. A person who can repair vehicles, provide medical aid, teach, or produce food holds an invaluable currency in a collapse scenario. Skills cannot be stolen, inflated away, or confiscated, making them one of the most resilient forms of wealth. In every urban crisis, from Berlin in after World War II to Argentina in the 2000s, those with practical, tradable skills fared far better than those who relied only on financial institutions. In an urban or national collapse, resilience depends on diversifying wealth into forms that outlast paper money. Precious metals, tangible goods, digital tools, and skills provide overlapping safety nets. True wealth is measured not just in what you own, but in what you can use, trade, and teach when the system fails. All right. Before we go on, what's the next one? Nope, we got one more section under this slide. Bartering as a learned skill. This is something that I learned over the last 10, 15 years. When formal financial systems collapse or money loses its value, bartering often resurfaces as the most basic form of economic exchange. While it may seem straightforward, trading one item for another, the reality is that successful bartering is a learned skill for a vast majority of people. It requires practice, awareness, and strategy. In an urban collapse where competition and scarcity are magnified, knowing how to assess value, negotiate fairly, and building trust can make a difference between securing what you need and walking away empty-handed. Bartering is not just about what you have to offer, it's how you present it and when you choose to trade it. For example, offering a scarce item at the wrong time may paint you as a target, while trading too quickly can leave you short on resources later. The most effective barterers understand timing, relationships, and the psychology of negotiation. Practicing these skills before a crisis, whether at swap meets, through small trade networks, or by learning negotiation techniques, can prepare you to navigate the high-stakes exchange that comes during a collapse. So here are some of the key skills to develop. And if you're going to Midwest Preparedness Festival, this is a great place to practice this because they have a barter town every Saturday. So the first one is valuation. This is learning how to assess the worth of goods and services in relative terms, especially under scarcity. Negotiation. Practice making offers, counter offers, and walking away when terms aren't favorable. Discretion. Avoid showing your full inventory or desperation. Both can make you a target. Understand when to hold back and when to trade, depending on supply, demand, and risk. And finally, relationship building. Establishing trust and reciprocity. Somebody say reciprocity. Giving it back with reliable trading partners before a crisis. So there's one last thing. So in the bartering in the digital age. So there's apps you can use like Buns, Nextdoor, Facebook Marketplace. You use cryptocurrency instead of cold hard cash, cold wallet backups or bitcoins or other stable coins, offline coordination, print contracts, use ham radio or in-person bulletin boards to find barter partners. Safety tip: meet in public or prearranged community spaces. Never barter alone if trust isn't established. Okay, guys, before we go on, let's pay a little bills. So one of the things that we talk about here is our connectivity. You know, in a financial crisis, you run the risk of becoming disconnected if you're not able to get to it. This link right here, and I'm going to pull this off and put it up in the chat. Oop. This is our referral link for Starlink, and they've got some really good deals going on. You can get free installation kit, and I think they discounted the price too, if I remember correctly. But you can use that link and go get Starlink and get it installed, so you're not relying on maybe slower internet, or if you're someplace like we are and it's the only option you have, the only viable option, because HughesNet is terrible. That's the way to go. Go get Starlink. At least try it out. They give you a 30-day free trial, and you can decide from there. All right, let's get back to the topic at hand, and that happens to be, what is it? Practical actions before a crisis. What we're going to do to prepare for a financial collapse before it happens. All right. Well, hold on. Before we go to that, let's see what Lynn says. The size of a problem is relative to the size of your resourcefulness. Absolutely. 100% correct. So before a crisis, step one, eliminate unnecessary debt. The borrower is slave to the lender. That's a Bible quote, and it is 100% true. In a crisis, debt payments become unbearable. Focus on eliminating credit card debt, auto loans, and other high-interest liabilities. Use the snowball or avalanche method. I highly recommend, you may not like him on the radio, but I highly recommend Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. It's a great system. He teaches the snowball system, and he gives you a lot of good reasons to follow it. Step two, build an emergency fund. So we want to start small. Even $1 a day builds into a cushion. Aim for at least 3 months of expenses. Use local banks, credit unions, or physical safes for diversified storage. Consider having 60% in cash, 30% in precious metals, silver, junk silver, small gold pieces, and 10% in secure crypto wallets if you're into that. If not, just go 60-40 like we do. I'm not invested in any digital currency whatsoever. And I would say as far as precious metal goes, you probably need to start considering brass, lead, and copper as precious metals too, and you need to stock up on that before a crisis happens. Step three, diversify income sources. Develop side hustles, remote work opportunities, or passive income streams. Post-collapse, skills like repair, cooking, or digital freelancing can provide income. Step four, acquire barterable assets. Stockpile trade goods, hygiene, soap, toothpaste, feminine product, food, salt, rice, coffee, and alcohol. Those last two are worth their weight in gold. Tools, lighters, knives, batteries, and services. Repairs, like doing repairs, providing childcare, cooking maybe. In fact, Angela bartered cooking for our large freeze dryer that we've got back there. Step 5, secure physical storage. We need to use fireproof safes for cash and valuables. We spread storage across multiple locations, like your home, your bug out bag, your vehicle, and trusted relatives. And then there's some special considerations. If you live in an urban environment and you're low income or a renter, so save small amounts like $5 a week in envelopes. Focus on barterable skills like haircutting and cooking, and assess community tools like co-ops, libraries, and mutual aid. Oh, we just went past that one. All right. So unless mankind just completely dies off the planet, the collapse is going to stop at some point. And so we need to plan for post-collapse recovery. All right. And here's some of the ways we do this. First thing is we realize cash is king until it isn't. Cash is vital in the early days of a crisis. I'm sorry, this is during a crisis. Did I post-recovery? I'm sorry, guys. I completely glossed over. I completely missed a slide there. I apologize. We need to backtrack a little bit. So we need to talk about financial transactions during a collapse. Give me a 5x5 if the live is still active there, guys. I'm not seeing any movement in the chat. Just let me know. Let me know that it's still there in case I need to go look. Actually, hang on a second. Oh, and I pull it up and I get a question. Oh, yep, we're still here. We're still there. Looks like we're good. You guys just being quiet, throwing me off there. Okay, how to conduct financial transactions during a collapse. Cash is king until it isn't. Cash is vital in the early days of a crisis. Small denominations like 1s and 5s are better than larger bills. Doesn't do you any good to have those large bills if the bodega down the street can't cash them. Precious metals. We need silver coins, especially pre-1965 U.S. coins, are widely recognized and easily to barter. Gold is better for large value trades. And here's the thing about silver, guys. You realize that an ounce of silver will buy the same thing in 2025 as it bought in 1972, whereas the value of the dollar has gone down by about 92%, if I remember correctly. It's gone down dramatically since 1972. So, for example, in 1972, an ounce of silver could buy a loaf of bread. In 2025, it'll buy a loaf of bread. And I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but I remember getting nickel loaves of bread there at the grocery store. The next one, bartering essentials. Bartering replaces currency when trust in money breaks. Create a personal barter inventory and keep it updated. Now, here's something I didn't say earlier about bartering goods. Makeup. Makeup is one of the proven things that holds its value during a collapse, because women want to feel pretty, or they may need it for getting themselves dolled up so that they can partake in certain professions. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's something you can put in there. Now we're going to talk about post-collapse. So like I was saying, no matter what, the crisis is going to go away, and you need to think about afterwards. And financial resilience doesn't end with the crisis. It continues as communities rebuild. Here's how financial preparedness helps long term. You can rebuild wealth via micro businesses, repair services, food production like gardening or preserving, and teaching skills like self-defense or mechanical skills. Those are type of businesses that can help you rebuild. Then, just like before collapse, after collapse, you want to invest in resilient assets like CSAs, community supported agricultural shares, chickens, solar gear, and we want to buy low-cost land if available. And finally, we want to partner with others in cooperative ownerships, pooling your money together and buying a shared tool or asset. Okay. Step 3, learn high-demand skills. Skills like carpentry, plumbing, forging, and herbalism translate into income and bartering power. Next slide. There's a question for you guys. Have you ever changed a financial habit after seeing a past crisis or historical collapse story? Well, yes. I'm gonna say yes. The Yugoslavian War and the siege of Sarajevo. I read all about that. I found it very interesting, and it made me adjust some of the way I did things financially. Lynn says that value retention is because silver has other uses and can't be created on a printer. Absolutely. Anything that is fiat will eventually lose its value. Take tulips, for example. The Dutch for several decades traded tulips, and they held lots of value. Then suddenly they didn't hold value. Pokemon cards are another thing. You know, they just their value is only worth what people have belief in. Okay, so now we're going to talk about community-based financial security. So a crisis reveals the fragility of the individual wealth and the strength of collective resources. Communities can create powerful safety nets. Neighborhood banks, rotating saving clubs where each member contributes a small amount weekly, creating an emergency pool. Mutual aid networks. Shared funds or barter networks can distribute resources equitably. Local currencies or script. Printed or digital credits redeemable within a community. You know, the Kansas City farmer market kind of has something like that, except it's dealing with the EBT stuff. So the people that are on EBT can come and they get chips for purchasing stuff at the farmers market, and that's the only way they can do it. They cannot use their cards. That ensures that they're getting healthy stuff. Eljo says, thank you, Grumpy, and all the comments in the chat. Thanks for all the effort you put into the information. Semper Fi. Well, you're welcome very much, brother. Actually, the tulip thing was way overblown. Most of it was illegal and unenforceable. Legend is way more dramatic than the real story. Well, isn't that the case always? I like it, so I'm just going to run with it. The next one. Oh, we are to our final thoughts. Man, this went fast tonight, guys. It went fast. So, final thoughts on this. Resilient finances mean a resilient future. Financial security in urban and suburban crises isn't about wealth. It's about adaptability, trust, and preparation. It is a hidden glue that holds together every other preparedness pillar: food, shelter, medical care, community, etc. We want to start small. One jar of savings, one debt eliminated, one skill learned. We layer by layer. You're not just building financial safety, you're building resilience for yourself, your family, and your community. When the lights go out and the systems falter, those with resilient financial habits will still find ways to thrive. And that, gentlemen and ladies, is the end of the presentation tonight. So next week's topic is going to be mental and spiritual resilience in an urban environment. I want you guys to think about leaving a comment down below on what you think of all this, and give us any tips on how you handle the stress or ideas on creating side hustles. All right. And again, if you're stumbling on this and you've watched it all the way through and you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe. Come join us on this journey towards life done free. And remember to like, share, and share the video. Share with somebody that might need it. And I guarantee you that you know at least one person that could benefit from this. And again, comment down below, and stay alert and stay ready, guys. All right, with that said, I want you guys to go out and put your head on the pillow tomorrow night and be able to tell yourself, I'm better off than I was when I woke up, and go live a life done free. All right, guys, take care.
Survival isn't just about having the right gear, it's about mindset. In a world without the rule of law, what will you do to survive? WROL isn't just a game, it's a tool to hone your preparedness and survival mindset. Test your instincts, outthink, outlast, and outmaneuver your opponents in a world that's fallen apart. With WROL, every card you play challenges your thinking, tests your adaptability, and sharpens your ability to make tough decisions under pressure. Whether you are planning for an everyday emergency or prepping for the end of the world, WROL helps you prepare for the chaos of everything in between. Ready to level up your survival skills? Click the link in the description to order your deck of WROL cards today and start building your SHTF mindset. The apocalypse starts here.